your name, okay?
From beautiful Cypress Gardens, Florida, the home of barefooting, the USA Network presents the second annual Masters Barefoot Tournament. In this, the most prestigious event in barefooting, you'll see the top men and women barefooters in the world. The second annual Masters Barefoot Tournament is brought to you by Mastercraft Boats, the standard by which all others are judged. Hello, everyone. This is Randy Scott along with Steve Bosco File, and we should have an exciting afternoon of barefoot master skiing this afternoon here at Cypress Gardens, Florida, on beautiful Lake Eloise. Bosco, they say that the smoother the water, the higher the degree of performance, and if the weather is any indication, and if these conditions hold, we should have some very high marks here this afternoon.
That's true, Randy. Yesterday we had a lot of wind in the course, a lot of boating activity. There were rough water coming in here constantly. It really held the scores down. However, the best skiers prevailed. You know, it's still a test, a fair test of one's ability. Today we have ideal conditions, and if they hold, we'll see those scores jump way out, and it'll be a good, fun afternoon to see who prevails.
And Bosco File and I will be back with the opening round, the trick competition, as the best barefoot skiers in the nation converge on Cypress Gardens, Florida this afternoon. Lovely shot of scenic Cypress Gardens, Florida, where WILDA Farms is bringing you this Masters Barefoot Skiing Championship this afternoon. Good crowd on hand to witness the competition. And an outstanding field of competitors has been assembled, converged on this beautiful little west central Florida city. PUNKY FORGIANA is a 6-year veteran of barefoot skiing. He's placed well in the World Meet in California in 1980, and here he comes, making his first pass before the judges this afternoon, PUNKY FORGIANA.
Okay, here's the series of tumble turns. They usually do 4 here. Do the 360 reverse, then the 180 in one direction, and then 180 in the other one. Now here we saw a pair of 180 turns on the bare feet, but the recovery there from the back to front apparently was in the wake. He caught a foot, and it looks like it dumped him into the water, which is too bad for PUNKY, because the defending champion needed a good run here to be in contention here this afternoon.
PUNKY from Ocklawaha, Florida. Take another look at that run.
Okay, there's the fall. Are we into a tumble turn here? Yeah, he recovers at this point. Now watch as he does it front to back, and then as he does his back to front here, he loses shape and plants a little bit hard and just tumbles forward. You will notice some skiers do their tricks inside the wake, others look for that glass water outside the wake.
It's PUNKY FORGIANA in the water and about to make his second approach here. As you can see, he placed 8th with 310 points after yesterday's tricks. Second pass in his trick competition. Let's see what his routine looks like.
Okay, he was backwards. He lifted each foot. Did it back to front. Now is the front to back. Oh, you got into a few rollers there outside the wake, and it put him down. So he's not really sticking to his trick run as prescribed, but still trying to get the high point value tricks.
We'll have another look at his second run right here.
Okay, there's the surface back to front. Now He was going to do some wake turns in here, and you see there's a little bit of rough water there. And he maybe should have waited for that rough water before he went into it. See his heel buried in the wake as he was attempting to make the turn, and it triggered the fall and caused him to put him down in the water. So another disappointed guy with 2 falls, or 1 fall on each pass of his 2 trick runs.
But PUNKY FORGIANA can make up some points in the starts competition coming up a little later on. Gentleman is no stranger to world competition, and he's a 3-time national champion. This is Mike Seipel from Brown Deer, Wisconsin, only 22 years of age.
Randy, you'll have to watch this fellow close. If he gets what he put down on the paper, he'll be cranking out almost 1 trick per second. If you picked it up there, he had his head in the tow line. He was hanging on with the handle with just his neck. So his attempt to do 13 tricks in 15 seconds, and we'll just wait and see what the judges scored. They've got the best vantage point in the boat and decide whether those were all credible tricks.
By the way, Mike finished 4th overall in the recent world meet in 1980 in California, which included a couple of barefoot jumps.
So Mike attained the skiing position with a 2-ski jump out. Came out of 2 skis, and that's a trick in itself, and he's awarded points. Then he hits this series of 4 tumble turns. Most of the guys are doing this because they can crank them out quick. It's a good, fast thing to get these tricks in, and they pay well. So you stick his head in the tow line now, skiing, just holding on with his neck. And in the spray, I believe he has passed the tow line now to his teeth.
Overall, you think Mike's pretty happy with his first pass?
That's still with just his head in the rope or in the tow line there. This is a good time probably to point out that what the guys are attempting here today is only be done in a professional capacity or well past an amateur status. It's nothing that anyone would want to go out and attempt on their own without some professional advice and professional coaching, because all these tricks are very difficult, and you can sustain high injury if you attempt this.
Here's Mike Seipel. He'll begin his second pass before the judges in reverse on 1 foot. Yesterday, 650 points in the trick competition. Second pass coming up for Mike Seipel.
Okay, he's on 1 ski. He's turned it around. He's in the back skiing position, planted his foot, and he's off and running. Now in the spray, you see each foot come up. There's scoring points there. Now he'll do a series of turns. There's back to front, front to back, and the recovery. Now he's doing the reverse turns. He's going in the opposite direction. And the horn sounds. So he was hoping to get in a line step over there where the foot actually comes across the tow line and touches the water and comes back. However, he was short on time, and you can see a disappointed Mike Seipel swimming around in the water. Okay, Mike sets up there. He does his front to back, and he's elected to ski inside the wake. Now you see he does a recovery, and he's still inside the wake. Now he'll go in the opposite direction. Sets up, turns in the opposite direction, and a fall.
Mike Seipel, at some point in time, would like to operate his own barefoot school, maybe in his home state of Wisconsin. Mike Seipel. Get a look at John Gillette, 26-year-old professional skier. In fact, he skis for one of Central Florida's other attractions, Ski World. Getting set to make his first pass, and here's John Gillette.
Okay, John's an old veteran at this. You can see him. He's a very stable skier, and he's hanging up here with the front runners because of the rough water conditions yesterday. Being a show performer, he's subjected to all conditions and has to experience all sorts of water each day through the year. So the show skier kind of hangs in there with the young up-and-comers. He's sitting here 3rd now in the trick run, or he's seated as a third place, and it's a result of the rough water yesterday and the experienced skier of the old veteran.
This is favorite portion of the barefoot competition is the tricks, and Bosco has to be pretty happy with that first run. We'll see it again right at the end.
Okay, here he comes through. He's still doing a series of tumble turns. He's down. Now watch, he'll pull back up. And it's a good bit of rough water he's skiing through now. There's 1 foot and a good eat it right there. His foot went, as he came down, he planted it, went right in, threw him forward, and still had his hands on the handle as he buried his face into the water.
Claims that the trick portion of barefoot skiing is the purest form of barefoot competition. Here comes John Gillette at 38 miles per hour on his second pass. He'll begin his second run in a reverse position. See him turning around on his ski, stepping off.
Now he has 1 foot in the air. There he goes for the reverse and a back to front turnaround. Now he's going to put his head through the handle. Now hands in the teeth. And now he's going to try his back to front. His front to back and a back to front. And that's just the run that he had written down. He does just what he wanted to do. As I said, that's Mr. Consistency, John Gillette. Pretty happy with that run. And that'll score him well in this trick event.
John, originally from Denver, Colorado, as we mentioned, now makes his home in Orlando. Going to take a look at his entire run here, and he's got to be really happy with his performance.
Okay, he's dancing through the spray and a little bit of rough water there. You saw him lift 1 foot, then he goes for the opposite foot. Each time he scores points. Then he does his back to front turnaround. And watch as he walks up the bridle, grabs a tow line, slips his head through it. Now he'll take both hands off. He just has to hold it for a split second. Now both hands again up on the bridle, grabs a tow line with a special device on the handle to hold it with his teeth. And there's just tremendous pressure at this point. I'm sure as John's orthodontist would shoot him if he saw what he was doing out there. The tow line is experiencing tensile pull of maybe 200 pounds at that point as he's holding it with his teeth. And he does a front to back, and he'd already completed the back to front turnaround earlier in the run, so that was a duplicate. So he finished the run, completed everything he put down on his sheet, and a happy performance for a happy guy.
John's other hobbies include sailing, reading, and very involved in his church work. Next up, we're going to see the 1981 Men's 1 Division National Overall Champion, Tommy Weir from Salina, Tennessee. Tommy, member of the Cookeville, Tennessee Water Ski Club. Been skiing competitively barefoot for 4 years.
Randy, Tom's using a little different strategy. He's elected to come into the course backwards, which is a little bit opposite of everyone else starting their first run on their bare feet, entering the course frontward. So we'll see if he's playing a little strategy game with the next competitor out, which will be Ron Scarpa. So he's doing a back deep water start. He's planted his feet, and he's up and running. The sound of the horn, he'll enter the course.
There's the horn. Some rollers out there on the course right now.
And
so far he's hanging in.
He lifted each foot, did a back to front turn, and see him wasting some good time here attempting to do the rest of his run. All right. Front to back and back to front, and he fell on his reverses. So he did a few tricks there that'll score some pretty high points for him. However, he lost the last 2 tricks that he'd hoped to do. So the pressure's still on to complete a good second run.
Perhaps you could explain, Bosco, what you mean by wasting time. I know you only have 15 seconds, and it took him a while to get into one of his routines here, didn't it?
Okay, Randy, as he recovered, he set up for his next trick. He was outside the wake. He had to come inside the wake, and all his time spent skiing, the clock is ticking off. So it was a lot of time spent in getting set up for this trick that we see him doing right now. So he did a 180 front to back and a back to front, turning to the right, and then as he turned to do it in the opposite direction as reversals, he falls on his front to back. So he might have got pressured towards the end, knew he lost time crossing the wake, and which caused the fall.
To take a look at Tommy Weir now, who's up out of the water, and his return ride is underway.
Okay, Tommy's entered the course doing the tumble turns.
Tommy finished second place in the trick competition yesterday. Got a good ride going on his second pass here so far.
And
Bosco, I don't think he got all the routines in that pass that he would like to have.
Now he did a series of tumble turns, and he was outside the wake, and that little bit of chop right there delayed the time, and he'd hoped to get into some toe turns, and the time was spent doing the tumble turns, and a little bit of chop there. He just never had an opportunity to set up and do his toe turns. You can see, watch the knees flex. They're really bobbing along. It's indicating it's starting to get a little bit rollery out in the course, and with the rollers there, the time is delayed, it's spent, and regaining composure to set up for your next trick, and the time clicks off on the talk, and you waste your 15-second run in attempting to do the trick. The bouncing we saw through the water was just hitting rough water and throwing him up into the air, which didn't score any points. Just the tumble turns is all he'd be recorded for on that pass.
Take a look at the boat at the 1981 Men's 1 National Overall Champion, Barefoot Tom Weir from Salina, Tennessee. This gentleman, Ron Scarpa, is our final competitor in the men's tricks division. Finished 3rd overall in the world in 1980 in California. Ron Scarpa's first pass.
Okay, Randy, it's obvious why he's seated last, finishing first yesterday. Look how quick and fast and smooth he's doing these turns. He again hopes to do almost 1 trick per second. And he cranked a few tricks off there, but he hadn't done what he'd really hoped to do, and fell on towards the end of the run on the high-paying tricks. However, he knows at this point no one has really done a real high-scoring run, and so he can be a little bit on the conservative side and play it kind of safe here and still come out being a front runner in this event. Here we see his tumble turns. He comes up, doesn't take any time to set up, and goes right back down into the next turn. It's just a slight delay. There's the 180s, down, he's back up. Now he goes in the opposite direction. And in time, this is almost 1 trick per second at this point. Now at this point, let's see, he's looked like an attempt to put his foot in the toe line, but that was a 1 foot ride on each foot. There's the attempt to the front to back, and he sinks down into the water.
So he'll regroup and get ready for his second pass before the 10 judges who are marking all of the competitors get a good look at 19-year-old Ron Scarpa, who resides right now here in Winter Haven. Born in Miami, and a very impressive finish in the world competition, 3rd overall in the recent meet in California. Here comes Ron Scarpa, second pass, and he'll start in reverse. Step off on 1 foot. Bosco?
Okay, 1 foot reverse on each foot. There he is, back to front. Now he's cruising outside the wake, his front to back, back to front. Now he'll do this in the reverse direction, and his front to back in the reverse direction was a bit much. You can see he's skiing right through rough water. However, I think he compiled enough points in that series of tricks, and along with his first run, which should have him knocking the door as the front runner there. He'll be definitely a contender. Okay, here he is in the course. He's completed his back to front. Now watch, he crosses outside the wake. He must have seen some good water here to waste the time to come outside the wake. There's a front to back, a back to front. Now as he attempts this in the opposite direction, see that foot catching the rollers right there? And with the body standing up in that position, there's no chance for a recovery, and the action comes just too hard and fast to recover. A bit disappointed that he didn't complete the run. However, he got enough points in that'll pay him good to have him as a front runner in this meet.
Ron Scarpa has been water skiing professionally for 6 years, 5.5 of those in barefoot competition. So the veteran from Winter Haven wraps up the men's trick competition here during the 2nd annual World Masters Barefoot Ski Meet at beautiful Cypress Gardens. We'll be back with the exciting women's trick competition in just a moment. You know, every sport had its pioneers. Aviators had Wilbur and Orville Wright. Baseball, of course, with Abner Doubleday. And barefoot water skiing can be credited to this gentleman, Dick Pope Jr., whose father founded Cypress Gardens back in the early 1940s. In 1947, Dick Pope Jr. put on the first pair of non-water skis ever and attempted barefoot skiing. Dick, what was the occasion? Did you just break your skis and say, I'm going to give it a shot without?
No, we had been skiing on little tiny shoe skis and tacking our tennis shoes on top of that. And we kept cutting them down smaller and smaller, and finally my dad said, well, son, why don't you go out and just try it without skis? I tried it one time on this side of Lake Eloise, and then it was a little bit rough, and I tried it on the other side of Lake Eloise here at the gardens, and made it.
It must give you a great deal of pride, lo, these many years later, to host the Masters Barefoot Tournament here at your own Cypress Gardens and look at the proficiency with some of these 13 and 14-year-old youngsters who have undertaken the same sport that you pioneered.
Well, it certainly gave me a great deal of pride to watch the tournament off and on this weekend, because they're fantastic. The things that they're doing, even my son, who's 12 years old, does a few things on his bare feet that I never dreamed of, but I've gotten a thrill out of it, and these skiers are to be given an awful lot of credit for the things they get out and do. It's amazing. both the men and the ladies.
Congratulations on another super tournament, the second annual here at Cypress Gardens, Dick, and thank you for your gracious and cordial hospitality.
Well, we're certainly glad to have had USA here with us, and certainly happy to have had WILDA work with us, and thank you so much for being with us. We hope we'll see you again in the future.
Thank you, Dick Pope Jr. Beginning the women's trick competition, our first competitor in the tricks division is WILDA Cross from Bossier City, Louisiana.
Okay, Randy, WILDA has stepped off and she's in the course now. You can see her going through a series of tricks. We started with a tumble turn. And the tumble turn is where she goes down, skis on her back, and then comes back up to her bare feet. To get credit for that trick, she has to successfully come back to attain the skiing position where she's skiing forward. And she's through the course. They'll drop her into the water now. We'll turn around, and she'll come back from the opposite direction. You might note here that WILDA is 29 years old, and she's up against 13-year-old Lori Powell, who is the defending champion. So in a Masters competition, we have no age differences. The only categories are men and women, divided by sex only.
WILDA Cross getting ready to make her second run in the tricks competition here at Cypress Gardens.
Okay, Randy, note that WILDA's skiing backwards at this point. Trick values or points are paid by the difficulty of the trick, and so of course they're going to pick out the tricks here that'll get the most points or the highest point values as possible. And so coming into the course now, she's skiing in the backward position, and we're going through a little bit of rough water there, and I believe she's trying to go 1 foot. There's 1 foot up. Now she'll try to do it on the opposite foot, and she's through the course. A little smile and a wave tells the story there. I think she's happy with that run.
WILDA's a member of the Cypress River Competitive Barefooters Club. Swimming back in toward the dock.
Okay, Randy, here she's skiing through the course. There's 1 foot up, and now it'll be a few seconds here and she'll regain her composure. There's the other foot. So her attempt here was to do 1 foot backwards on each foot, and you're paid for the reverse of the first trick you do. So a successful run for WILDA, and a smile told the story at the end of the run.
Here comes young Lisa Emery, getting set for her first pass before the judges here at Cypress Gardens in the trick competition. Lisa's 23 years old, is a professional water skier, began her professional career right here at Cypress Gardens in Winter Haven, making her first pass.
Okay, Lisa's first trick is going to be what Sally fell on a while ago. There you see her tumbled all around it down, and it'll be a judge's decision on whether she gets the credit for that trick, because she just got in the skiing position and she fell. She caught a foot and went down fast, and it'll be a very short trick run, and it'll be questionable on whether she was even scored for this pass. Okay, watch as she goes down. She's round. Now she has that momentum. She whips right back up, plants both feet, comes up skiing, and there goes the foot. So it's kind of wide open on whether she was actually in a skiing position, and that's why we have 3 judges and a timer and a driver in the boat to make those decisions for us. So we'll wait and see what the scores bring.
Bosco, I understand that the judges will also make use of some of our slow-mo equipment here in determining some of the points and the awarding of points for the competition today. There's a good look at Lisa, right here in Winter Haven, 23 years of age. And as you can see, the 1979-80 Women's National Overall Champion, Lisa Emery.
Okay, here comes Lisa. She's in the barefoot position, and it looks like she's going back for the tricks that she missed in her first pass. There's her tumble one direction, and she's done a reverse. Reverse is just the opposite of the first trick. Now she's doing a pair of 180s where she goes down and doesn't maintain that continuous direction, but stops and comes back up. There's a pair of 1 foots on each foot, and it looks like she was attempting to put her foot in the toe line at the time of the fall and thereafter the horn. Now, each skier only has 15 seconds to complete as many tricks as possible, so if Lisa had gotten her foot into the toe line, I'm not sure that she would have had enough time to complete the trick. There we see each foot, that's a 1 foot ride, and now watch as she attempts to place her foot in the tow line, a few rollers there. Right foot sinks, she must push on a little bit. It came out, she lost her balance and tumbles into the water.
Lisa was a member of the United States team back in 1979 and 1980, won the women's national overall title back in September of 1980. Our next competitor in the tricks is our final gal in the competition today. At age 13, Lori Powell has accomplished just about everything that's possible already, but still has a whole career to look forward to. From Lakeland, Florida, 13-year-old, the 1981 Women's Open National Champion, 13 years of age. And here she comes, Bosco, first run.
Okay, the little 13-year-old has really put the pressure on the older ladies. You can see no one has completed a run yet, and this is a tournament that's very prestigious just to compete in it. And I think the pressure has gotten to some of the other girls because no one yet has completed a run. Now we'll just have to wait and see what Lori has done. There's 2 tumble turns, a pair of 180s, and I think she'll go in the opposite direction at this point. You can see just what a beating this little girl has taken. There's a 1 foot up. And with excellent conditions, I still don't think she completed the run that she would have liked to have done, but that's going to be enough in that one pass to take this trick event, I'm sure. We have our new leader floating right there in the water.
92 pounds, a sinewy competitor. Here she comes again.
Okay, there's that tumble turn. See how she drops her shoulder, comes down under the water, spins around, stops her direction, and now she reverses it. And bounces off the wake a little bit. It pushed her back out into the good water. And you can see here we have just excellent water conditions this morning. The water is glass smooth, not too much activity on the lake, no boat rollers coming through. And this is the kind of water the competitors want to really turn on and do their thing. There's 1 foot up. Now she brings the other foot up, and at about this point we hear the horn blow, and that finishes the run.
Amazing, not only is Lori an excellent barefooter, but she's also an accomplished water skier. Like to hold world records in both water skiing and barefooting. A scenic view of the windmill here at Cypress Gardens on the shores of Lake Eloise on a sunny day in Central Florida. Junior high school student, 13-year-old Lori Powell, ready to make her second pass before the judges here at Cypress Gardens in the barefoot trick competition. Here she comes.
Okay, Lori's riding a trick ski. We saw her come up forwards, did a 180 on the ski, swung outside the wake and stepped off. And here she comes into the course now, 1 foot up. She's going for the opposite foot. Oh, an attempt to put her foot in the tow line caused the fall there. There may be a few rollers there, which caused the fall. And it's a tough break for her just at the start of the run. She had plenty of time once she got set there to complete a few more tricks. Okay, we see 1 foot up, and here she comes for an attempt at the tow line and a little bobble, and she had to put her foot down, planted it hard, which tumbled her backwards. And you can see there's a little bit of rough water in the course. However, everyone's going to have to contend with those rollers, and it's going to be probably a changing factor throughout the day, and it'll be a judge's decision whether she can get a re-ride or if the rough water did influence the fall or cause the fall.
Well, at age 13, you can't be but so disappointed, I guess. And she can look ahead to knowing that when she gives up water skiing down the line, her next ambition is to become the best surgeon in the world. 13-year-old Lori Powell.
With the run that she has had, she'll definitely win the event. However, she would like to have done better on that pass for overall scoring in the 3-event competition.
The men will have 2 starts apiece in the men's start competition, and that is just around the corner right here at Cypress Gardens. In the water is Russell Conley, the first men who will participate in the men's start competition here. We're going to take a look at the top 5 starts of the first day of competition. Ron Scarpa on top with 375 points. Mike Seipel second, Tommy Weir third, William Farrell, and then John Gillette. Once again, in the water right now is Russ Conley from Orlando, Florida. And we'll see what degree of difficulty he is going to attempt in his first start this afternoon. Keep in mind that each participant will get 2 starts.
Randy, Russ has a tow line with a foot piece attached to it. So he'll be placing his foot into the rope at the initial part of the start. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to roll onto his stomach and try to come up backwards, or if he'll ride out and plant his foot in the forward position. But this will be one of the more difficult starts. And as I said earlier, these guys are out for it. They're going to be giving it everything they can.
There's the horn, and 16-year-old Russ Conley is out of the water, the Orlando, Florida teenager.
Now we approach the critical point. He has to plant the foot, stand up, and maintain that position for 3 seconds.
Looks like he's going to get some points out of that one, Bosco.
Yes, that's an excellent start. Now they slow the boat down, and he sinks down into the water.
Very
sinking.
good start for Russell Conley in his first attempt this afternoon. Been skiing for 10 years, been barefooting for the last 4 of those 10. Let's take a look at it again in slow-mo.
Okay, he went under the water with his foot attached to the tow line, and as the boat accelerated, he breaks the surface of the water. Now he must ride and wait for the boat speed to build, and when he decides the time is just right, he must plant his free foot into the water and come up and balance himself, and that's just exactly what he did. He had to maintain that for 3 seconds. The only question is, did he do it within 12 seconds? If he did it within 12 seconds, it'll be a full score. Should he have gone beyond that 12 seconds, then it'll be decreased by 20% for each second beyond that.
This is John Gillette with a flying back dock start. It's worth 155 points if he can successfully maneuver it. Trying to get up out of his starting position right now. He has 12 seconds to assume a skiing position, and he's up. Looks like a pretty good start for John Gillette. Ought to get some points out of that one, Bosco.
That sure does, Randy, especially the amount of concentration that goes into pulling off a start like this when you have a broken nose.
That's right. Quite a smile for a fellow who broke his nose earlier this afternoon with his own knee in the trick competition.
And then to come back with a headache that must be just throbbing between the ears and perform this flying back dock. Now, that's the stuff that makes a true champion. John's a skier up at SeaWorld, and it's the old show skier coming out in him, but you never let the show go down. You know, it must go on, and he goes out here in conditions that probably very similar to what he must experience day after day throughout the year at SeaWorld, and puts it together in the choppy water.
And that particular start that he elected to take, his nose kind of acting as a rudder in the water there. So, John Gillette with a good run, and we'll have his point total in just a moment. Mike Seipel will attempt a deep water back tow for his first start this afternoon. Worth quite a few points if he pulls it off, Bosco.
Yes, Randy, that's a 260-point trick. So what we'll see, Mike, is he'll go underwater, he'll have his rope attached to his foot, and then he'll come up and try to plane off, maintain balance, and decide when the time is right that he can get his foot into the water and stand up all in one motion. Now, the trick here is when he goes underwater, he'll come up and he breaks the surface, and as he does, there's a lot of tension that comes off the tow line, so it's the boat can accelerate. And as it does, it'll really increase the speed, and at that moment, Mike will be crossing the initial prop wash of the boat, which we call the bumps. And as he goes across the bumps, you see some porpoising action. And it's through this porpoising action, he must regain his balance and get stable. Now watch as he breaks the surface. Now see him bounce along through there, right through the bumps. Now he must plant that foot and come up and stand and hold it for 3 seconds.
Deep water back tow, Mike Seipel trying to get up in that heavy wake.
Buried in the spray, trying to stay down, keeping it safe, not taking a chance on hitting any rough water. And it looks like it was a successful start for Mike.
Also an excellent snow skier, and I guess he gets a lot of that practice up where near his home of Brown Deer, Wisconsin, near Milwaukee.
Okay, the boat is running now. It's approaching speeds, and it'll come up to approximately 40 miles an hour when he plants his foot in the water. Now he's got his hands down, maintaining balance. He'll be looking back at the shoreline, trying to keep his eyes on the horizon if he can see it through the spray, and put his hands out to the side. And he must do that within 12 seconds, then maintain that balance for 3 seconds before the judges are going to score it as a successful attempt. And
Still awaiting word.
It appears that it was. He seems to be happy with it in the water.
He is a 3-time national champion. In fact, wants to open his own barefoot school someday. Right now he's a barefoot ski instructor at Brown Deer, Wisconsin. Looking at the Mastercraft boat, who will soon have in tow PUNKY FORGIANA, 15-year-old from Ocklawaha, Florida, outside Ocala. PUNKY's going to try a back deep water start to 1 foot. worth a lot of points if he pulls it off. He's been barefooting for 6 years. And let's take a close-up look at Punky FORGIANA on the back deep water start. 1 foot.
And he did it. You need to watch this closely, Randy. As the start is attempted, he must keep that 1 foot free of the water at all times, even that period while he's riding on his stomach. It cannot touch the water.
This should be worth quite a few points to Punky FORGIANA, who was shut out. Let's dissect it in slow motion, who was shut out with no points at his first attempt.
Okay,
Let's put this one under the microscope.
Watch both feet. The left foot will go down and touch the water, maintain balance, and he's got to keep that right foot up free and clear of the water. This is one of the more difficult starts, and Punky knows he needs it if he's going to do anything here at all. And you saw him raise it up free, clear of the water, plant his other foot into the water, and came up right, maintaining balance perfect. Good start for Punky.
And he's awarded 305 points for that start. So he is close behind our early leader, Russell Conley, in second place. Punky FORGIANA. John Gillette taking his position on the starter's dock. You can see in his first start, which was a flying back duck attempt, he successfully completed that for 155 points. Here's a front tumble, Johnny Gillette.
This start for John Gillette should be a piece of cake, considering he's a show skier and used to doing this 365 days a year. But he threw in a little handicap today because he broke his nose in a trick event. So we're really proud of this guy for hanging in here and coming out competing against the best and doing 2 successful starts when 5 out of 10 guys are getting zeros.
Once again, here's the Hawk himself, John Gillette. Broken nose and all.
See his attempt to come out of the water, he tried to keep his face clear of it as much as possible, keep that pressure off the nose, and just tumbles to his back and rolls around like the old veteran that he is. Spins it up there to a very successful attempt. So an additional 70 points will give him unofficially a 220 for this afternoon.
If you can call 26 years old. 70 points for the front tumble, we're told, and that gives him a total of 225 with 2 successful starts. Gorgeous afternoon, a bodacious day for the 2nd annual Barefoot Masters Ski Championships. And next up will be the current front runner at Cypress Gardens, Mike Seipel, 22-year-old barefoot instructor from Sheboygan, Wisconsin originally. A lot of these competitors out of the state of Wisconsin. Let's look at a front deep toe start for front runner Mike Seipel. He needs this.
Okay, if Mike can do this one, this will put him out in front where no one will touch him. He's struggling, and can he do it? No, he can't. He put his hand on his leg, try to maintain that balance. And this should still keep him out in front, but Ron Scarpa is really going to have his work cut out for him if he wants to try to bump him out of action.
Well, let's take a look at a 0-point effort, unfortunately, for Round Deer, Wisconsin's Mike Seipel.
As I said earlier, the more difficult the trick, the more points it pay, and this was a 300-point trick he was attempting to do, and this would have put him out of reach. So he was going for the bacon on this run. And looks like a pretty good position, but he sinks back down, loses his balance, spins around, and tumbles into the water here.
Well, that puts the onus squarely on Rod Scarpa, who will be our last competitor in the start competition. And Scarpa right now in somewhat of a head game, I'm sure, trying to figure out what he should try and do. Should he play it safe and go for a fairly easy start and guarantee him enough points perhaps to win this meet? Or should he, as you say, go for the bacon and try one that's a high degree of difficulty? Before Rod Scarpa makes what could be the decisive run of the start competition this afternoon, these words from Rod as we spoke to him earlier in the day about this great ski championship.
What's the appeal of barefoot skiing to you? I notice you've been barefooting almost as long as you've been water skiing. Why do you like it?
Well, barefooting was something that came easy for me. And my family started skiing it. My brothers and sisters started skiing earlier than me, and they were already better. And we all learned to barefoot at the same time. And it was something, I was lighter and we didn't have a lot of horsepower behind our boat, so it's something I picked up and I could show off and they couldn't do it. And that's why I picked it up.
Okay, Ron has elected a bit more conservative start here, and he just does what he probably does 8 days out of 7, that come out here and do this tumble turn start in any conditions that he'd want to, and just cracks it off and does it like it should be done. It's a reasonably easy start. As a result, he won't be paid very well for it. He'll get 70 points, and unofficially, I give him third here for the event with a score of 445 behind Mike Seipel's 530, and second behind John Gillette with the broken nose and scoring 450 points. Of course, those are unofficial scores, and we'll have to wait for the scorekeeper to give us the official results.
Ron Scarpa, 19-year-old from Miami originally, now makes his home right here in Winter Haven, home of Cypress Gardens. Almost ready to begin the start of the women's start competition, and that is coming up in just a moment. Once again, you're looking at the 1981 Open Women National Champion, and by the way, Lori Powell was the only one to successfully make her first start. So she has to be ahead right now in the points competition as they begin the round of 2 here. Second starts for the 4 competitors in the women's division at Cypress Gardens. Good look at 13-year-old Lori Powell. Bosco, what's going through their mind right now as they wait for the tension to tighten up on the tow rope?
I think Lori feels probably a pretty comfortable cushion at this time. She did a flying back dock and stood up, skied away, and none of the other competitors really got a score in that first round. And it's a tough start to do. So all she needs is a nice conservative, something that she feels really comfortable with here to kind of boost that lead, and she should walk away from this one.
It's going to be a front tumble for Lori Powell, junior high school student in Lakeland, who is on her way to certainly becoming one of the all-time great world barefoot skiers. Lori is up. Here's her front tumble start.
So skiing on her knees and her elbows, she spins around and skis away from it.
Nice round of applause from the spectators on hand here at Cypress Gardens this afternoon. And certainly a happy look, a big smile comes across the face of Lori Powell. Take a look at the score for her first run this afternoon. Her first start earned her 150 points. And another successful run on top of that, Bosco, just might ice it here for Lori Powell.
Right, the start she just attempted will score 70 points if it's a credible start, so that with 220, that should be the lead that everyone's going to shoot for. You can see it's a tumble turn, very similar to what we saw earlier in tricks. She's planing off on her stomach, changes around to her back, and then comes up and rides her bare feet. Now you can see as she's riding along, there's plenty of rough water in the course. The knees are just flexing and bouncing, but Lori blasts right through it, and I think she'll come home a winner.
Well, to point out that some of the starts, however, are worth in excess of 300 points, so she is not uncatchable. Well, let's take a look at Wilda Cross, who wiped out, got 0 points in her first start attempt. As you can see, the 29-year-old housewife from Bossier City, Louisiana, is getting set in the water for her second attempt. Communicating with the men on the boat right now. Wilda Cross would need a start in excess of 220 points, the cumulative total thus far of Lori Powell, to hope to catch Lori in the competition this afternoon. So it would have to be a high degree of difficulty start that she would attempt here to earn her first place in the start competition.
Randy, what Wilda's about to attempt is to come up and ride on the ski, and she'll be going on the ski backwards in excess of 30 miles an hour to even attempt the start method. So it's quite a trick in itself to get to the point where you can even attempt the start. So what we may call is it's a double trick here. The noise you heard in the background is one of the speedboats out racing around in the lake, which we really enjoy. People really enjoy coming here to Cypress Gardens from the other lakes and watching the course or watching the competition. But at the same time, it's a deterrent to the skiers in that it generates a lot of rough water in the course, and that's what we're on now, is just a little downtime here to let the water smooth down in the course.
Wilda getting a good luck wish from her husband and son, Verlin. Verlin Sr. and Jr. We're just about set. Get a good view of the towboat.
Signal to the driver. The line is being stretched tight. She'll put her head underwater and the boat will accelerate.
The
1981 National Women's Champion is underway on her start. Reverse. Well, not a bad start that time for Wilda Cross. Certainly an improvement over her first effort this afternoon, Bosco.
However, it'll still be a 0 score. She got up on the ski and was away, but never got her foot planted in the water and never got to step off from the ski. Now, what she's doing is difficult in itself, but she doesn't really get stable here, and it's a requirement that the skier has to stay within the wake. And you can see she's bobbing and weaving here, and as she goes to plant her foot, she just gets off balance, and it dumped her right in the water. 15 seconds is a very short time to come from 0, attain a skiing speed, plant your foot, and accelerate a second time up to position, or to get into position to step off from the ski and get in a backward barefoot skiing position.
Winter Haven's Lisa Emery getting ready for her second run, and it's pretty much a battle for second place now between Lisa Emery and Sally Winter, who will follow Lisa, both with 0 points on their first run. So let's see what, I understand Lisa's going to try a front tumble this time. And as Bosco pointed out a few moments ago, the communication with the driver is extremely important between the skier and the boat driver, depending upon what routine they elect to go. Here's a front tumble start by 23-year-old Lisa Emery. Some rough water.
Oh, and another fall for Lisa, which is too bad. So that's 2 0 scores. Now all Sally has to do is just make an attempt and get any score on the board she can, and it'll ensure a second place.
We'll see it again here, Bosco. Lisa Emery.
Okay, Lisa's
you can see the rollers coming in there.
Right, she's up and riding on her elbows and her knees at this point. Now she'll flip to her back, and as she does this, she never gets stable. She flipped to her back and came right around, smacked her foot in, and there's rough water in the course, but everyone has this same contention. Now I saw Lisa signaling to the judges and appealing for a reride, and we'll just have to see how they register this thing. Once again, it's important that or you mentioned the driver, it's a two-man team out here to pull off each one of these starts, and the driver must follow the skier's instructions to the T every time to be able, or to allow the skier to perform each start.
And we understand they have disallowed her claim for a reride. Consequently, it's down to Sally Winter getting any points at all will lock up second place here. So I would imagine that the degree of difficulty on her start probably wouldn't be that high. Sally Winter is up next, and she will try the same start that Lisa Emery failed to make just a few moments ago. Sally Winter will try a front tumble. And if she successfully pulls it off and has any points at all, she will automatically nail down second place in the starts competition this afternoon. Here comes Sally. She is up out of the water. Keep a close eye on her. There's the tumble. And is she going to get up? Well, it's one of those marginal rides, Bosco. I guess it could be ruled either way.
Yes, she may have even crossed the wake, and should the skier go outside the wake, that's a disqualified start also. Looks like Sally's very upset with it. Here we see she's up on her knees and her elbows. Now she'll tumble to her back, and just at the point where she falls, there's a big set of rollers that came into the course. She's pretty good here at this point, got her feet planted. Now did she get outside the wake? She's riding right on the verge of it, but she's on that part of the wake, whereas the rollers come in, they crest with the wake, and it makes it a much higher bump than what it would originally be, and that's what put her down under the water.
Sally Winter, along with Lisa Emery and Wilda Cross, all coming up with 0 points on their start attempts in 2 attempts this afternoon. And easily the winner with successful starts both times out is Lori Powell, who amassed 220 points for her combined efforts. Well, Bosco entered the afternoon expecting breathtaking competition, and that's exactly what we got, right down to the wire.
Right, Randy, from this morning we had perfect conditions. As the day progressed, conditions deteriorated. As we got to the final results, or the final competitors, where we really had to get tough, the conditions were lousy, to say the least. So the guys had to put it together. The toughest guys hung in there, and there was no surprises. The guys who we thought would do it did their best. They came through. They're the winners. They stand out. And this morning, the guys, after 1 day of competition, the people who really had to come back had the best water to do it in, and they couldn't do it. So it's been a fair test, even though conditions haven't been what we'd like to have seen.
From sunny Cypress Gardens, Florida, Randy Scott along with Bosco File, and that will conclude the second annual Barefoot Masters Ski Championships.